While we're talking about the Chinese infiltration of the West, of course, TikTok, you'll remember that's another thing that Biden wanted to ban in the United States, and that was meant to come into effect on January the 19th. It did come into effect for just a few days. Then, of course, President Trump came to power and he put a stop to all of that. I mean, it was the worst 24-odd hours that I think many people had ever experienced in their lives.
Normally, when something happens, I would get on TikTok and start complaining, and I can't even do that.
We learned so much about things we didn't know about, opportunities, places to eat, movies to watch, books to read.
I just seen the video of the girl that made the renegade dance. And I'm crying because I read a comment that was like the algorithm saying goodbye to us.
This app was literally supposed to be my way out.
So sad. Now, of course, the deal was that if TikTok wanted to avoid, or ByteDance, which is the parent company of TikTok wanted to avoid being banned in the United States, they had to divest TikTok that was being used in the United States. So therefore, it wouldn't be linked to China and then data wouldn't be sent back to the CCP. Trump said, look, we'll put a 3-month stay on this and we'll try to come to an agreement where 50% of TikTok is owned by the United States. That came up in March and he then extended it again. And so it will come up on June the 19th in just 2 days. There still has been no sale of any part of TikTok. Now, Donald Trump has said tonight that he thinks he will probably extend the deal again so they can try to find a buyer. But as far as I'm concerned, TikTok has had far more time than it was originally offered to get this done. They have not been able to sell it off. I don't think they have any interest in selling it off because China thinks it's far more valuable to own a service like TikTok because it gives us all this data on the people who are using it. It gives them access to the mobile phones of the people who are using it. And more importantly, it gives them influence in the West because they get to control the algorithms and decide what people in the West are looking at. They don't want to sell it. They are playing Trump for a fool here, and he ought to turn around and say, if you haven't been able to sell it by now, too bloody bad, you're banned until you've done it.
So what hope do we have dealing with Chinese cars if we can't even deal with a Chinese social media app? And this is the test for Donald Trump, who of course made a big song and dance about the dangers and the evils of TikTok, only to then change his mind when it appeared it might be helping him with younger voters. Having extended the deadline a couple of times, if he extends it a third time, does anyone really believe he's serious? But he should be. Remember this clip from US 60 Minutes talking about the fact that the Chinese produce one version of TikTok, spinach if you like, for their own children, and yet leave us with a version of TikTok, which is like a drug that's messing with our kids' minds.
If you're under 14 years old, they show you science experiments you can do at home, museum exhibits, patriotism videos, and educational videos. And they also limit it to only 40 minutes per day. Now, they don't ship that version of TikTok to the rest of the world. So it's almost like they recognize that technology is influencing kids' development, and they make their domestic version a spinach version of TikTok, while they ship the opium version to the rest of the world.
When you've got a social media app that is so obviously being used to influence Western young people for bad, why wouldn't you just get rid of it rather than carry on this art of the deal?
Well, it is a bit of a charade because realistically, there is about a 0% chance that TikTok will actually manage to find a buyer. The first issue is it is so expensive. So the app is valued at around between $100 and $200 billion. To put that into perspective, Elon Musk bought the whole of Twitter for $44 billion. So you're talking about something that is double the size. The other problem is that algorithms to the CCP are actually considered a core national asset. So algorithms have even been put on a list of restricted technology, which would require the CCP to consent to the sale of it to any Western buyer, which naturally they're not going to do because, as you've pointed out, they have so much power and influence in the Western world through these algorithms. And then you have the other factor of that there are simply no Western companies technologically able to run TikTok. Microsoft has tried and backed down. Oracle thought about it but couldn't. Meta would have a monopoly on social media if they did take it on, so probably wouldn't be allowed to. I think the best bet for someone to buy TikTok would be Elon Musk, but I don't think he's going to be doing Trump any favors anymore, and that was probably the only option.
I have to ask though, as someone who uses TikTok and buys into it,
We're all
you were
waiting
gonna
for
ask.
no. Do you worry about the data that the CCP is harvesting on you?
Yes, I need to get a burner phone. I think that's the solution. And because my approach has always been, TikTok is such a powerful app in that you can go viral very quickly. You can reach a lot of people. My TikToks during the voice referendum got over 4 million views, and similarly during the last federal election. So it is very powerful. As long as young people are there, we have to use it. But I should take some more precautions.
So your Twitter feed was spinach for Australian young people.
Yes, I was up there upholding the quality of TikTok.